Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. 2024, what a great year. You know, it feels almost as if we got so much of what we asked for. It truly feels like the year that keeps on giving. It's Christmas season, let's say, because so many of our wildest dreams came true. You know, it feels like best case scenario. Republicans win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But even beyond that, it's more like the way it happened that feels like such a big win. Early on during the election season, I kept saying the same thing. I hope Donald Trump does exactly what Vivek is doing. I hope he embraces independent media, essentially shafts the corporate lamestream legacy media. My hope was that Donald Trump was going to go on a campaign to humanize himself in front of people, to have real conversations. And my one wish was that Joe Rogan would change his ridiculous stance of refusing to have Donald Trump on his show, that finally that moment would happen and that it would be big, and that hopefully it would change everything. And I have to say, it feels almost as if that's exactly what happened, right? It's just been gift after gift after gift. And now it seems like we have an even greater gift, as Joe Rogan went from left-wing Bernie Sanders supporter, who was extremely skeptical of Donald Trump, to now essentially embracing him and telling people publicly that actually he voted for him, or that he rather was supporting him. He made it a little bit of an indirect statement, and then building on it just the other day, saying that, you know what, Trump's growing on him, and that he thinks Donald Trump is kind of the perfect person for the moment. It's just such a beautiful gift. Joe Rogan finally changing his stance, opening his eyes, joining the right side of history. At least that's the way I view it. And so obviously that's the topic of this video. I want to show you guys this clip and then have the conversation. Let me give you guys my 2 cents. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I pretty much laid out the groundwork. Take a look at this Joe Rogan moment.
The quote about Trump, or the narrative about Trump, has always been that he's bullying everybody, that he's a con man. He's definitely very persuasive. You know, Scott Adams has wrote about this pretty much in depth, about how well Trump practices the art of persuasion. Mm-hmm. You know, the art of the deal. He's great at making people his friend and making relationships. And if you're his enemy, you, scorched earth. You know, it's like this. And there's fear of that. You don't want to get on his bad side. There's all this, like, there's this art of, like, how he negotiates, and it's gone through this years and years and years of business. But that's him. That's the guy's right there. You could talk to him about everything and anything. He's right there. He's not protecting any of his ideas. He called a girl he allegedly slept with horseface when he was the president on Twitter.
It's so funny.
It's the wildest. So you're getting what you get. That's who the guy is, and you love. I like him. I've grown to like him. I had a much more negative opinion of him back in the day, because it was. There's only so much you can pay attention to and do deep dives on before you lose your mind. And with him, I was always like, oh, that guy, they grab him by the... It's probably not good for the country. That seems crazy. But as time went on, I was like, oh, you need a guy that is completely crazy to expose how corrupt the whole system is, and how they all collude together, and how they all say this. There's all these montages of clips of news organizations saying the same narrative outright, over and over, verbatim, word by word. They're getting fed this by someone, some entity, they're somehow or another they're collaborating. And they're all choosing this very specific narrative, and they're running with it, and they're trying to destroy people with it. And I saw them do it with me.
Finally, Joe Rogan comes out and admits that Donald Trump is growing on him. You know, I've always made this comparison. Radiohead is one of my favorite bands of all time, and especially when I was in high school. And with a lot of my friends, I always said, man, you got to get into this band. But they always struggled with it, because Radiohead's a little bit unconventional, let's say. But I always told them, keep listening to them. Listen to the entire album, and do it a couple times. And it was always the same result. It started off with, I don't know, don't really care so much for this band, they're kind of weird. And it would end with, I got to admit, they're really starting to grow on me, and I really like this band, they're becoming one of my favorites. Donald Trump is like Radiohead. Now, I'm sure the left-wing musicians behind the band are probably recoiling when I say that, but it's true. He grows on you. With time, as you get more exposure, your perspective seems to change. And slowly, Donald Trump tends to win you over, and that's what I've been saying forever, and especially following this incredible landslide victory, that it seems as though Trump is winning the people over. And not just politically, it's not just about the rhetoric or the policy promises, but on a personal level too. And Rogan's recent comments here, I think, show a shift in perspective that so many people are experiencing. Trump's character, of course, is wild and unpredictable. He's certainly a character, I'll give him that, but it seems, warts and all, slowly but surely the people start to appreciate him, despite what the pearl clutchers deem as red flags. And we can all face the reality. Trump's a little bit crazy. He's a little bit wild. But here's the thing. Sometimes you need a little bit of crazy to shake things up and actually get things done. To be honest with you, at least in my personal experience, the crazy people, those with a little bit of an edge, well, they're my favorite people. Maybe that's why I love Donald Trump so much and I relate to him. I'm a little bit crazy and certainly got an edge, especially behind the microphone. And that's another thing that Rogan mentions. The greatest leaders throughout history have always had that edge. A certain willingness to go beyond the boundaries of what's supposedly acceptable. It's that spark, that unpredictable nature that makes them capable of achieving real change, doing something that other people would be unwilling to. And that's exactly what Trump represents for so many people. And Rogan finally gets it. Love him or hate him, he's not your typical politician. He doesn't play by their rules, and that's exactly why people are so drawn to him. They're tired of the same old politicians who say the right thing but never actually do anything of substance. Oh, change this, change that. But it's just an empty political slogan, and then the status quo remains, or is reinforced. You need a couple screws loose, in my view, to be a real person of substance. You need to be perceived as crazy by all the normies, all the shallow thinkers, to be onto something. It's like the Galileo phenomenon, right? Oh, he's crazy. Oh, he's crazy. They wanted to shun him, but he was right, and he changed science forever. It's the exact same situation, just in a cultural or political form. And I'm just so glad that Joe Rogan is finally seeing it. What's happened in this election was so important. It was so important for Joe Rogan to have Donald Trump on his show. We've been talking about this for years. I have been so vocal on this topic and even in a way putting my neck on the line, criticizing Joe Rogan with his massive fan base, not exactly the greatest career move, but I always voiced my frustration. It pissed me off, frankly, that Rogan had this stance. Oh, I'll have Bernie Sanders on the show, but Donald Trump? No. I don't want to have a presidential candidate or get involved. You literally had Bernie Sanders on your show. Either you're scared or you kind of buy into the whole Trump derangement nonsense. It just rubbed me the wrong way, but finally he woke up and realized what was at stake and did the right thing. He looked beyond the mainstream media caricature of Donald Trump and just sat down and had a conversation face to face. And I've been saying forever this needs to happen because Donald Trump needs to humanize himself. The media loves to paint Donald Trump as this larger-than-life, villainous figure, but when you actually meet him, hear him speak without the media filter, you start to see that there's a lot more to the story. He's a human with flaws and all, but he's genuinely a passionate person, and he's certainly passionate about something quite important if you're running for president, making America better, making America great again. And this is what I've been arguing for so long. Joe Rogan and others like him just needed to get their heads out of their behind on this issue and actually have the conversation. It's a presidential election, for Pete's sake. And guys like Rogan have the biggest platform. Do the country a service and have a conversation. It doesn't just mean with Donald Trump, also with Kamala Harris. And Rogan finally realized that responsibility that he had, and he gave an opportunity to both candidates. One of them took it, and the other essentially proved who she was. A bought and paid for puppet. And I believe that moment opened so many people's eyes. It even opened Joe Rogan's eyes. Let's be real. The system is broken. People understand it. We all see it. Corruption runs deep in Washington. And so, maybe the country needs a little bit of Trump with his no-holds-barred approach. He's one of the few guys willing to actually call it out. Someone who's actually willing to shake things up a bit, reform these corrupt institutions that are no longer serving the American people, that are being weaponized against the American people and against American democracy or the American Republic. It's just a beautiful thing, and Trump's outsized character and his general authenticity, well, it's spurring a real conversation about change. Whether we're talking about dismantling these corrupt three-letter government agencies that have been weaponized against the people or completely overhauling the Department of Education, Trump is the guy with the guts to not only say it, but then actually do it. And I think people are starting to realize that you need someone who's willing to break a few eggs if you want to make a real omelet. Trump's character disposition may not be everyone's cup of tea, but that's essentially the point. When you're trying to change a system that's so deeply entrenched, well, then you just might need a little bit of Trump. I guess Rogan finally sees the light. Anyways, that's pretty much it. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.